Hey, what's up, ghouls and gals? Today, we are revisiting the animal attack subgenre, something that Alex and I were talking about last night. We think that this is a subgenre that kind of goes overlooked. I feel like they don't make them like they used to. I actually challenged myself to only talk about films dealing with animal attacks that came out in the 70s for this video. So as always, I will leave a letterbox list linked down below with all of the films mentioned and more. And if you would like to see any more of me or support the channel any further, you can always check out all of my links down below. But anyways, let's get into 5 more horror films dealing with animal attacks. Starting off with Frogs from 1972. A group of helpless victims celebrate a birthday on an island estate crawling with killer amphibians, birds, insects, and reptiles. And honestly, I didn't feel like this fully fit on my insect bug horror list. I kind of felt like it fit more in the overarching animal subgenre, so that's why it's gonna live here. 500 Florida frogs and 100 South American cane toads. They purchased them all to use in this film, but during production, a lot of these guys escaped. There has definitely been a couple of more films in the animal insect subgenres where I feel like they actually used real bugs, insects, reptiles, amphibians, things like that, and they actually did hightail it. But moving on to number 4 and Day of the Animals from 1977, a battle for survival ensues after a group of hitchhikers encounter a chemically imbalanced forest. Now this is just animals. There's no specific animal here, but there's animals. And this one does star Leslie Nielsen, so if you are a fan of him, I definitely grew up watching Airplane, Naked Gun, so if you're a fan of Leslie Nielsen and you want to see him in an animal attack setting, this is the film for you. And number 3, let's talk about Rattlers from 1976. A professor and photographer hunt Mojave Desert snakes fueled by nerve gas. I have to say that while researching this film, I really did get parallels between the Outwaters and Rattlers. However, I guess there is no correlation whatsoever, but I just feel like with the Mojave Desert and the snakes, it feels very connected. But if you're interested, the body count in this film is 13, and in case you are sensitive to like animal, there is one dog that gets, and there's also a chicken. So if you are sensitive to that, please be warned. All right, let's talk about at number 2, a non-traditional animal attack horror film from 1979, The Great Alligator. Tourists on a tropical island anger an island god who turns himself into a giant alligator and stalks them. This one is directed by Sergio Martino, and it was filmed in beautiful Sri Lanka. However, you gotta mess it up somehow. They used an animatronic alligator, and it just feels very camp. They had to kind of mask it with certain camera angles so that it didn't look so fake. If you haven't seen Charles Band's Bad CGI Gator that was released a few years ago from Full Moon Features, it's on Tubi. You want to see some bad CGI Gator, you want to see real bad looking stuff and still an enjoyable film, check that one out. That will be on a different list. Yes, it is an animal attack, but it's not good by any means. But moving on to number 1 and Orca from 1977. A fisherman and crew are targeted by a killer whale seeking vengeance for its mate. Now this is another film they did use an animatronic for. They also kind of masked it with stock footage, which I feel like they do with a lot of shark films. And speaking of shark films, I feel like that is its own subgenre. Sharks are its own category. There's so many great shark films. Utopia Films is actually putting out a new shark film, a shark horror movie this year, and I am so much looking forward to it. It looks right up my alley. And speaking of sharks, if you want to learn more about sharks, I feel like this is a great time for me to mention the Sharksploitation documentary on Shudder. If you want a rich history of shark movies and sharks in horror, definitely check that one out. So on that note, I was kind of thinking I cooled it with the Letterboxd wrap-ups this year because I feel like they took so much time to edit and I could just be doing different content in that time. However, we've already watched so many new movies in these past 3 months. Would you guys like my next video to possibly be just me sitting down chatting about new horror movies? I don't really have anything planned to talk about next, and I feel like that's a great opportunity to catch up with new releases with you. So let me know your thoughts on that. Let me know if you have seen any of these animal attack films. As always, I will leave everything in the Letterboxd list. Follow along, let me know what you've seen, what you've watched, what you want to watch, and I will see you in the next video. Sayonara, Spooky fam.